Connor Hadley grabbed a 63-year-old black man
Get off that stool, dog!
by the back of his jacket and dragged him off the diner stool. Saturday morning, packed diner. Every fork stopped. Mitchell Owens caught the counter edge, looked Connor dead in the eye.
I've been eating here longer than you've been alive, son.
Connor shoved his face closer.
You talk back to me? My daddy's the chief of police. I say animals eat outside.
He grabbed Mitchell's collar with both hands, dragged him across the tile floor. The child screamed. Plates crashed. 12 people watched. Not one opened their mouth. Connor threw him onto the sidewalk and laughed. What he didn't know, what made him the dumbest man in Virginia that morning, was exactly who he'd just put his hands on. Man, to understand what happened, you gotta know who Mitchell Owens really was. Because nobody in that room had a clue. Ridgemont, Virginia. Population just under 18,000. The kind of town where everybody knows your name, your business, and what you had for dinner last Tuesday. Main Street still had those old red brick storefronts from the 1940s. A barbershop with a spinning pole. A hardware store that smelled like sawdust and motor oil. A post office where the clerk remembered your birthday. 2 years back, the town had voted to take down the Confederate statue in the square. Heated meetings. Grown men screaming at each other. They finally removed it. But the empty stone pedestal was still there. Like the town couldn't decide what it believed in yet. Right in the middle of Main Street sat Brenda's Country Kitchen. Brenda Watkins had owned that diner for 22 years. She was a black woman in her mid-50s with arms built from flipping cast-iron skillets and a voice that could silence a room without raising above a whisper. Checkered curtains in the windows. A brass bell above the door that jingled every time someone walked in. The smell of bacon grease and fresh biscuits hit you before your foot even crossed the threshold. Regulars had their own seats, their own mugs, their own unspoken rules. And nobody had been coming to Brenda's longer than Mitchell Owens. Every Saturday morning at 8:15, that bell jingled and Mitchell walked in. Same routine for 11 years. He hung his canvas jacket on the third hook by the door. His hook. Everybody knew it. Brenda already had his coffee poured before he sat down. Black, no sugar, ceramic mug with a chip on the handle that she refused to throw away. "Morning, Mitch." "Morning, Brenda." That was it. That was all they needed. Mitchell was 63, tall, lean, the kind of lean that came from decades of discipline, not dieting. There was a faded scar running along his left forearm. His hands were rough, but steady. Every time the front door opened, his eyes flicked toward it for half a second. Quick scan, then back to his newspaper. He sat with perfect posture. Not stiff, just straight. Like his spine had forgotten how to slouch. He wore no medals, no pins, no hat with a military logo. Nothing that said anything about who he was or what he'd done. To anyone walking in that morning, he was just an old man drinking coffee and reading the news. That was exactly how Mitchell wanted it. Now, on the other side of Ridgemont, there was a name that carried weight. Hadley. Chief Gerald Hadley had run the Ridgemont Police Department for 14 years. He was the kind of man who shook hands at church on Sunday and buried complaints on Monday. His son Connor was 28, technically a deputy in the next county over. But in Ridgemont, Connor moved like he wore his father's badge. Loud, entitled, always looking for someone to remind that the Hadleys ran things. Folks in town talked about Connor the way people talk about a storm they can see coming. You didn't confront it. You just got out of the way. Black residents knew him best. Connor had a habit of showing up where he wasn't needed. Traffic stops that lasted 45 minutes. Noise complaints filed against houses that were dead quiet. Always the same neighborhoods. Always the same faces. And nothing ever came of the complaints. Because every piece of paper with Connor's name on it ended up on his daddy's desk. And Gerald Hadley had a real talent for making paper disappear. That Saturday morning, around 8:30, the bell above Brenda's door jingled again. Connor Hadley walked in with Deputy Kyle Sutter. Kyle was on duty.